So Matt Gaetz went on Fox News. He debated Geraldo here. Hannity was pretending like he's a moderator, but everybody knows who he's going to agree with in the conversation. They talk about food stamps, or as it's called now, the SNAP program. And Gaetz says something I would argue is absolutely psychotic. Let's listen.
Will Republicans come together on the debt ceiling, and will they stand strong at 222? Because Biden is betting against that. That's why he says no negotiation.
Well, if we pick the right fight, I was discouraged to see my colleague Don Bacon announce on Meet the Press that he believed that no cuts and entitlements could ever be acceptable to his wing of the Republican Party. I actually think we should have work requirements. If we imposed work requirements on SNAP and on Medicaid expansion for able-bodied adults, we would have the ability to save $1 trillion during the tenure of the day.
So for SNAP and Medicaid, you want work requirements? That's psycho. That's what he's saying is if you're unemployed, you shouldn't be able to eat. If you need help to afford meals and you're unemployed, we don't care. You better go get a job. And then we'll help. By the way, how ironic is that, right? Go get the job and then we'll help you afford food to eat. Well, if you get the job, you're more likely to not need the help to afford the food. So it's just like kicking somebody when they're down. If somebody's unemployed, that's when they need help the most. And this is kicking them when they're down and saying, we're not going to help you. And then he says for Medicaid expansion, too, a work requirement. So in other words, if you're unemployed, you shouldn't be able to get health care, no matter how poor you are, right? The whole idea of Medicare is let's help these senior citizens. Let's give them health insurance. Medicaid is the poorest people in the country. They get health insurance. He's saying if you're unemployed, you shouldn't get the Medicaid expansion. So you shouldn't get Medicaid if you're in like the lower middle class area of income. I mean, this is crazy. Now, the logic behind this every time is like, oh, we want to incentivize people to work. And the way to incentivize them is say, hey, you get some more goodies if you actually work. And so they think this like, lights a fire underneath people's butts and gets them out there doing stuff. But the fact of the matter is the overwhelming majority of people are trying to get by. And sometimes you just fall on bad luck. Sometimes you're unemployed. Sometimes the economy takes a downturn and people get laid off, even though they were half decent at their job, but they just, the job is not needed anymore. And from all the evidence I've seen, all the data I've seen, there is no disincentive. So in other words, if you give somebody Medicaid, or you give somebody food stamps, it's not like since they have healthcare and since they have a meal that they're not going to want to look for a job anymore. They're just going to park their ass on the couch. All the evidence says the exact opposite. I mean, we've covered the UBI study that came out of Stockton, California, which found that the overwhelming majority of the money went towards necessities. It went towards like food and the electric bill and the water bill. And it's not like when you gave people $500 a month that they stopped working. In fact, quite the opposite. There was an increase in employment by giving them a little bit of that help. So, I mean, this is just, it's psycho stuff. That's what this is from Matt Gaetz. I want to see how Geraldo responds.
Republicans unite.
3 children.
Will Republicans
are you going to have a mother?
I think a mother with 3 children.
A mother with 3 children at home make her work?
Yeah, and you know what? You can meet work requirements in a lot of these states by volunteering at nonprofits, by helping out at a local church,
how about Social
even
Security?
job training,
How about
training and those things. Well, let's start with Medicaid. When we reform,
if you're a mother with 3 kids, here's what you don't have time to do. Everything you just listed. Go volunteer over here. Go do this thing over there. That'll count as like a work requirement. Raising 3 kids alone is work. And that's a full-time job. That's a full-time job. So this is why UBI is a good idea. Somebody like that should be getting some ability to sustain, to live, because, and that, what they're doing should be recognized as this is like vital labor. Raising these kids is vital labor. But no, not according to Matt Gaetz. And Matt Gaetz says very clearly there after Geraldo says, what about Social Security? Should we have like a work requirement for that too? He's like, look, we'll get to that. But first let's do the Medicaid thing. And that's crazy, man. That's crazy. First, let's do Medicaid and food stamps. Then maybe we'll get to work requirements for Social Security. The whole idea of Social Security is that people are old and they want to retire and they've earned that break at the end of their life. And he's clearly flirting with the idea of like, yeah, eventually let's get to that. Let's get to maybe work requirement for that. Man, these people, again, don't ever let Matt Gaetz tell you he's a populist. He's anything but populist. He likes to posture like he's a populist and he's fighting for the working class. This is like the least pro-working class thing I've ever seen in my life. If you want to see me and Crystal Ball interview legends like Noam Chomsky, Cornel West, and more, subscribe to Crystal, Kyle, and Friends on Substack. $5 a month gets you the video version a day early. Remember, we take 0 ad dollars for this podcast. Or you can sign up on Substack for free and get the audio version a day later. Link in the video description box below.